Good morning, dear learners. Welcome to Teaching Learning. And in our last lecture, we discussed about the various group determinants, right, which influences the buying behavior of the consumer. Today, we'll discuss about the family buying influences and family life cycle and buying rules. How family influences the consumer patterns, right, or the behavior of the consumers, and that is what role a family plays in purchasing. What is family? Family, we can define a family, a household where people living together are related to and are related to each other by marriage or blood ties. What that is what the family is. When the what is a family? If we have to define the family, family could be defined as a household where people live together and are related to each other because either of the blood relations or because of the marriage. For marketing point of view, the family differs from the larger reference group in that the member must satisfy their individual and shared needs by drawing on a common and shared relatively fixed supply of resources. See, in our last lecture we discussed about the various reference groups, right, which influences the buying behavior of an individual, right? But from the marketing point of view, that the family refers from the large reference group. How, why it is different from the large reference group? Because in family the member must satisfy their individual and shared needs, right? Because they have certain individual needs, they have certain their shared needs, right? So the member must satisfy their individual as well as their shared needs by drawing on a common and shared relatively fixed supply of resources, right? We have a fixed supply of resources which has been shared, which are very common and shared. So from that, from those fixed resources, we have to, as a member of a society, we have to satisfy our individual as well as the shared needs. As for individual, the family is the strongest and most immediate and most persuasive influence on decision making, right? No doubts in that, right? Family impacts the individual because it is a primary group. Family is the primary group, and family helps in formation of attitude, and attitude plays a very important role in decision making. So family plays a very important role in decision making because it's a primary group and the strongest, most immediate and pervasive influence, right? What is the nature and types of influences, right? The family's influence come from the fact that the bond within the family are likely to be much powerful and intimate than those in other small groups. So because being a family, right, the bond is more powerful than any other group, and that is the bond is more powerful and intimate. So when bond is more powerful and intimate, it influences the buying behavior of an individual. Because these bonds, the family has profound social, cultural, psychological and economic influences on the consumer. Because the bonds are more profound, right, and more powerful and intimate, right? Because of these goals, because of these bonds, that family has a various profound social, cultural and psychological and economic influence of the concept. Social, how a family can influence socially, because we share the common values and the norms, right? We share a common culture, that family helps in formation of attitude. So family impacts are social, cultural and psychological, as well as the economic influence, economic aspects, right? Because we family has a shared resources, common shared resources, and in that common shared resources we have to satisfy our individual as well as the shared needs within the family. Operating as a unit of analysis, a reciprocal influence operates on all decisions. There are three main sources of influence in family decision making. These are the father, mother, and other family members. So, in every family, there are actually three main sources of which influences the family decision. That is the father, mother, and the other family members. Two main buying influences that operates on the individual within the family is the consumer socialization and the integrational influences. Right. So there are the three. There are actually three main sources which influences in decision making in family decision process. That is the father, mother, and other family member, and the two main buying influences that operates on the individual within the family, that is the consumer socialization and integrational influences. What is consumer socialization? Consumer socialization is a process by which the young people acquire the skills, knowledge, attitude relevant to their functioning as a consumer. Socialization means what? When we learn certain thing, right? When we acquire certain social skills. So consumer socialization is what? When we learn or acquire as a young people, when we learn or acquire the skills, knowledge, and attitudes relevant to the functioning as a consumer. Right? As a consumer, how should what skills should we should have, what should our attitude and our knowledge plays a very important role. So consumer socialization is what? But the young people acquire the knowledge, skills, and attitude relevant to the functioning as a consumer, so that I can behave as a consumer. If I have a skills, and if I have a knowledge about the product, and if I have a attitude which can analyze the situations or the product, and then I can make a preferences. So family helps us in setting up the preferences, teaches us how to set the preferences. Family develops the taste. Family develops the shopping style, because the youngsters learns by observing their parents or the family members the shopping style, right? So they develop the shopping style. Then the youngsters know how to budget the money, because the family actually the family shares the common economic resources. So it is required that they should budget their accounts, they budget the money. What type of clothes to wear on what occasion, we learn this from our family, what to wear on what occasion, and which and what store to patronize. So all these we learn from our family. So family plays a very important role in taking decision in our decision as a consumer, because we develop our attitude, our taste, our style, right? We share economic resources and other resources, right, from with family, right? What are the factors influencing the consumer socializations? There are many factors which actually influence the consumer socialization, like the background factor, socialization agent, and the learning mechanism, and it results in the outcome, and the outcome is socialized consumer. So let's take the factors one by one. The background factor. The background factor, like the socio-economic status of an individual, right? As a consumer, the socio-economic status plays a very important role. Economic conditions, no doubt, economic conditions plays a very important role, right? Because as per our economic conditions, as per our income, we can make purchases. Then the socio-economic, socio is what is our social background, from which class we belong, and this class, when we were discussing about the reference groups, this social group played a very important role in decision making, as a in consumer decision making, right? So socio-economic condition, to which class we belong to, and what is acceptable in that class, right? And the economic condition of an individual or the family plays a very important role in formation of consumer, in socializing an individual as a consumer. Then comes the sex. No doubt, sex plays a very important role, whether one is a male or a female, right? It impacts the choices or the decision, because because there are certain products, or there as males and females have certain different thinking patterns, psychology, right? So sex plays a very important role in consumer socialization. Then age plays a very important role in consumer socialization, like experience and age plays very important role, right? The youngster, whether one is experienced one or the young one, right? That depends on the age. Then the social class plays a very important role, to which the one belongs to which class the one belongs to, right? As I told you in the reference group, we discussed about the social class, right? Our class decides, right, what product or what how we behave as a consumer. So social class plays a very important role. Group, what is the class? Class is a group to which we belong, and it actually depends, the class depends on the economic condition of an individual. Then the religious background is very important, which plays in socialization of the consumer group, right? What is acceptable in the religion, because religion is base of any society or base of any individual's life. So religious background plays a very important role, whether what is acceptable in the religion and what is not acceptable in the religion, how one can behave as per the religion, and what one can consume or cannot consume, what is prohibited and what is not prohibited in the religion, that plays a very important role, right? See, you might have seen many people saying that we don't eat or drink, we don't drink alcohol, or we don't eat non-veg because we are pandits. So this religious background plays a very important role in consumer socialization, right? Then the social class plays a very important role. All these are the background factors which helps in which influences the consumer socialization. Then there are this consumer socialization, these background factors leads to the socialization agent. Socialization agents like media. Media plays a very important role in formation of attitude of an individual. Although background factors are there, but media provide us the knowledge, right? It creates it creates the requirement or demand for the product. So media influences, this media is a social agent and it influences the consumer socialization, right? So media plays a very important role. Then comes the family member, is again a socialization agent. Family member, because family group is a primary group, it helps in, again it helps in formation of attitude, right? It tells us what is correct, what is not correct, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, right? How one should behave, how one should, what one should consume and what one should not consume, how to consume that, where to purchase those products, whether that product is worth or not, and what should be the cost, and all those things. The family members plays a very important role in consumer socialization, because being a primary group, being family being a primary group, we observe it from very beginning of our life, and it helps in formation of our attitude, and we behave in a similar, all the family members behave in more or less in a similar manner. Then the peers, that is the friends, peers or the friends plays a very important role in consumer socialization. And then the teacher, all these are the primary, that is the family, teachers and the peers are the primary socialization agents, and the reference group was the secondary socialization agent, right? So all these primary socialization agent like family, peers and teachers are the primary socialization agent. It helps in consumer to understand the requirement, the usage of the product, right? Whether that is required, and whether it will bring some value to the consumer or not, right? All these things plays a very important role in consumer socialization. Then after socialization agent, then learning mechanism. Being an individual, right, we have our identity, right? So being an individual, God has given us a brain. So this learning mechanism, that background factors played an important role. Then the socializing agents played an important role in influencing our consumer decisions. Then apart from this, our as an individual, our learning mechanism plays a very important role in consumer socialization, that is modeling, reinforcement, stages of cognitive development, right? We try to acquire knowledge, right, from other sources, right? Where what we observe or what we get from the socialization agent, then we try to find out whether that was correct or not, whether we need the product or not. Then reinforcement, we try to reinforce the products, that the cognitive development is there, right? All this learning mechanism, which we, that is learning mechanism is actually the secondary sources. From secondary sources we get certain information, and from primary sources we get certain information. Then that is how the socialized consumer comes out, and the outcome is socialized consumer. These are the factor influencing the consumer socialization, right? The background environmental factor and the socializing agent. The consumer socialization occur through two types of learning. One is imitation of others by observing the action of others in the family, and the second type of learning is operant condition. This means that consumption behavior that receives praise and complimented likely to be repeated by the child. Consumer socialization occurs in subtle ways that are not always obvious. There are four primary ways in which the family influences can be transmitted to the individual within the family, right? So there are the four ways. The parent act as a model for a child on the numerous consumption occasion, because we observe our parents or the family members, and the parent act as a model for the child on the numerous consumption pattern or the occasions. The child learn through the observation without the parent's conscious awareness or intention to teach. Then the parent-child discussion about the product or brand, why they are good for you and why they are not, right? When the parents discusses the things the about the product or the brand with the children, right? Child-child interaction. These becomes the important socializing influence when more than one child is present, when the siblings interact with each other, and child begins to handle money as he or she become old. Thus, through gifts and allowances, the family provides them the opportunity for a child to become more experienced as a consumer. This is how the family helps in influences the consumer behavior, the consumer pattern, or helps in socializing an individual as a consumer, right? So this is through observation. When child observe the parents or the family member without the conscious awareness of the parents or the family members, when the parent child discusses about the particular brand or the product, the child interaction is there. When the child begins to handle money, he or she becomes older, right? Then there are certain intergenerational influences. The intergenerational consumer influences refers to what is passed along with the grandparents to parents, from parents to their children, and from children to their children. This is intergenerational influences. These includes the religion, cultural values, lifestyle, attitude towards the education, sports, leisure, and social life. These are the things which are passed from one generation to another generation, and all these things influences the consumption pattern of an individual, like religion, culture, lifestyle, attitude towards the education, sports, social life, and other things. Such intergenerational influences plays an important role in forming the product and brand differences, right? So this intergenerational influences plays a very important role in formation in forming the product and the brand. Family role structure and the buying behavior, right? The initiator, this is the person who first suggests the idea of a product or a service and initiate the purchase process to begin with. The initiator can even be a stranger. The influencer, this is someone whose opinion is valued in decision making process. An influencer could be a friend, a brother, sister, spouse, mother, or other influential person. All these person have a direct or indirect influences on the final purchase decision, right? So initiator This is a person who first suggests the idea of a product or these services. That is actually family when discusses it among themselves or with the children or with the other family members. They initiate the things. They influences the family actually. The opinions of the family members are valued. They are very much valued by the other family members, and it helps in valued in the decision making, right? So this family could be work as an influencer, the decider. This is the person who makes a final decision on what brand or make to buy after all aspects such as the price, quality, and thought over. See, there is a family structure. Family structure, how the family plays an important role in buying behavior. There is a family structure. There is a person who initiates the idea. That is the person who first suggests the idea of a product or services. We need this. We should buy this on this Diwali, right? So this is the initiator. Our initiator could be any stranger, right? So suppose if some stranger come to our house, I think you should buy this now, right? You should buy an RO, right? The taste of the water is not that good. Or suppose there could be a wife there, she could initiate that I need a dishwasher. We should buy a dishwasher this Diwali, right? So the initiator, then the influencer. Influencer is a person in the family whose opinion is valued, right? And played a very important role in decision making. That could be a brother, that could be a child, whom you think like that person is more knowledgeable, a friend or spouse or any other, right? All these persons have a direct or indirect influence on the final purchases. Suppose if someone is thinking to purchase a two-wheeler and a youngster, specifically a female or a male youngsters and any of the family can be a influencer because they might have much knowledge than their parents, right? Then the decider is the person who makes the final decisions on the final decision on what brand or make to buy after all aspects such as the price, quality, servicing have been thought over. That could be mother, father, or any other. That who is the decider, right? Who takes the input from others and then decides on the basis of many aspects like price, quality, or servicing. Then the ultimate is the purchaser or the buyer. This individual who actually purchases the product and pays for it, takes it home or arrange for deliveries. Very often the purchaser and the decider are the same person, particularly for a big value item. So decider could be a father or a mother, and similarly the purchaser or the buyer is the person and the family who actually purchases that product and pays for the product and make arrangement for the delivery of that product, right? The purchaser or decider could be the same person or could be the different person. Basically for the bigger value item, the person that could be the same person, right? Then the consumer. Consumer is the user of goods or services in family consumption decision. A large number of purchases are for shared consumption. Suppose for a dishwasher, right? Mother could be initiator, right? The daughter could be the influencer suggesting the brand, right? The decider could be the father and the purchaser could be the father and the consumer, the ultimate consumer could be the mother or whole family, right? Because at large number of purchases in the family are for shared consumption, right? For the consumer. So this is the structure, actually the family rule structure and the buying behavior, right? There are the family decision stages, right? What are the decision stages? Family decision stages. That is the first stage is problem recognition, search for information, evaluation of alternative, final decisions and purchases. As we all know that these are the stages of decision making. Problem recognition. The first stage of decision making stage is problem recognition, search for information, evaluation of alternative, final decision and purchases. Problem recognition. Problem recognition is identification and analysis of the problem, and this is the main stage of decision making, right? And majority of people makes mistake at this stage only, that they are not able to recognize their problem well, and they can end up in making wrong purchases. So it is very important that one should recognize the problem, what they want and what type of a product they want, what are their requirements, what they need, right? And analysis of the problem, right? They try to find out the reason, do they really need that product. Problem recognition is the first and the most important step of decision making. If you are able to recognize the problem well, half of the problem has been solved. After recognition of the problem, suppose the problem is that we need a dishwasher because of the tantrums of not able to handle the tantrums of a house help, right? So problem recognition is mother or the other family members are not able to do all the jobs, they need a dishwasher. Then they search for information. After recognizing a problem, they started searching for the information, what all products, what all related products are available, what all which all brands are providing the product which can fulfill our needs, right? The cost, we started so we start searching for the brands, right, for the product, the price of the product, right? And then we started analyzing the product of one brand with the comparing and analyzing the one product of a one brand with the another brand, right? Then we started searching the information related to the product which we want, right? Searches for the information. This search could be from the primary group, from the reference group, from the secondary group, and from anywhere we can get the information, right? There then a lot of information is available, right? After getting the information, suppose we have the knowledge, we have the information about the product which can solve our problem. It is important to do the feasibility study, that is the evaluation of the alternative. Suppose we have 10 brands which are providing the product, the similar type of a product which can sort out us problem. Then we can evaluate the alternative or the feasibility study. We can do the feasibility study on the basis of price, right? We can compare the product on the basis of the price. We can compare the product on the basis of the technical aspects, right? We can do the feasibility study on the basis of the time required, right, to for time required by the company to provide that product, right? It could be technical feasibility, cost feasibility, time feasibility, right? Other feasibility could be the price feasibility. Other feasibility could be on the basis of the colors, or on the basis of the space, or the dimensions of the product, or the shape of the product, right? So we evaluate the alternative on the various aspects. The family member evaluate the alternatives on the various aspects. After the evaluations of the alternatives, right, then comes the stage of final decision. When we evaluated the alternatives of the product, right, now it is the time to take the final decision. We take out the product of the brand which suits or which fulfills our needs better than any other product, and we take a decision on the basis of our evaluation. And after taking a final decision, we end up in purchasing the product. Family ends up in purchasing the product, consumes that product, and then it gives the feedback. This is a family decision. This decision making is a cyclic process. It doesn't end here at the purchases, right? After purchasing, right, the family evaluates whether they are satisfied with the product or not. If they are satisfied with the product, right, then okay. And if they are not satisfied with the product, then they again go back to the problem recognition stage, that there might be some problem, they might not be able to recognize the problem well. So this is the family decision stages, right? The family life cycle concept. What is the family life cycle concept? Right, there is a family that is there are different types of the family, right? Like bachelor, right, a newly married, empty nest, family nest 1 and family nest 2, and the solitary survivals, right? See, average, and there is a difference in the average spending potential, right? There is a difference in the average spending potential of each and every at each and every cycle, family life cycle. Like when one is bachelor, right, then the spending average spending potential might be low, because being a bachelor they don't need much products, right? They can eat outside, so they don't need much things, right? So bachelor stage, the average spending potential will be at the lower end. A newly married, because they have to set up a house, right? The average spending goes up, right? The average spending goes up. That are newly married, they require each and everything to set up a family. Like they have to set up the kitchen, so they need kitchen utilities, right? They need other entertainment products like TV. They need TV. They have to go out. They need a vehicle, right? They need, because when someone will come in, they need good furniture, right? So the spending goes up. Then this goes up because after newly met, then comes the family, when they have the kids, right? When the people have the kids, then along with themselves, along with the couple, right? They have to fulfill the needs of the consumer. They have to fulfill the needs of the consumer kids. So the average spending potential further goes up, right? Because they need the product for themselves as well as for the other family members, which can include the kids or others. Then comes the empty nest. Empty nest is the stage, right? Empty nest is the stage when slowly that children starts moving out from the family because of studies or because of jobs and other issues, right? Then comes the empty nest. Then the average spending goes down again. Why it goes down? Then it comes at the lower side, that it goes down. Why it goes down? Because they have everything in the family, they don't need much, and the children moves out, and now they don't need much. They don't demand from the parents, right? So emptiness, the spending goes down. Then the empty nest family, empty nest 1 and empty nest 2, then slowly, and when the people moves out because of any of the reason, the average spending, that goes down, right? And when there is a solitary survivor, then it further goes down, or it comes at a specific level, because they don't need much for their survival, right? So that the average spending further goes down, right? Clear? Cultural and subcultural influences. That culture and subculture influences a lot, right? How it influences culture and subculture influences. What is culture? As per Urban and Nimkov, any man-made thing is a culture. Anything which is man-made is a culture. At general level, culture is defined as a complex set of values, ideas, beliefs, attitude, and other meaningful symbol created by human being to shape human behavior and the artifact of that behavior as they are transmitted from one generation to another generation. That is what I said. Any man-made thing is culture. So culture is what? Culture is a complex set of values. Values has been made by the men, right? by the human beings, a complex set of the values. We have certain values, right? Because we are living in this society, or in a society, there are certain values. There are values which are need to be followed. Why it has been done to the objective behind that was to maintain the social order, right? And another objective was for the socialization. It provides the guidelines for the socialization. So a complex set of the values. So culture includes a complex set of values, ideas. It includes the ideas, beliefs, attitude, and other meaningful symbols, right? So culture includes ideas, values, beliefs, attitude, and other meaningful symbols created by human beings to shape human behavior, right? They have been created by the human beings. Why they have created it? To maintain the social order, to shape up the human behavior, and the artifacts of the behavior as they transmitted from one generation to another generation. These values, attitude, ideas, right, beliefs, they are transmitted from one generation to another generation. In every society, the prevailing culture has a purpose. It provides a framework of traditions, values, belief, practices, and behavior that facilitate interaction, become institutionalized, right? So there is a purpose for this culture. What it provides a framework of traditions, values, beliefs, practices, and behavior that facilitate the interaction and become institutionalized. When something when we call that that has become institutionalized, when it has been accepted by a large number of a group, when anything has been accepted by a large number of a group, then it has been institutionalized. And the institutions, the characteristic of institution is there are certain unwritten rules which everyone is supposed to follow those unwritten rules, right? Like marriage is an institution, right? So they provides a framework. This culture provides a framework for the traditions, for values, for belief system, for practices, right, that facilitate the interaction and become institutionalized. Results in commonly accepted standards of conduct. Because it is institutionalized, there are certain rules, and it becomes a commonly accepted standards of the conduct, right? So it is like everyone has to follow those rules, values, ideas, and beliefs. As we say, this is not acceptable in our culture. That Western culture is ruining our culture, right? What is culture? Actually, a set of values, ideas, and the belief system which is accepted by a large number of people, right? And they are commonly accepted standards of conduct. Actually, they are commonly accepted standard of the conduct, and it passes from one generation to another generation, and this culture actually influences the consumer pattern, right? Like parents and social institutions such as schools, other organizations transmit culture from one generation to the another generation, right? Within a given culture, there is a subculture, right, that arises due to geographic, religion, and nationality and the ethnic differences, right? So I hope this culture is clear. Culture is the set of ideas, values, and system, and is accepted by a large number of group, right? And culture impacts the consumer behavior of an individual, right? What is acceptable? We consume or we buy the products which are acceptable in our culture, and we don't prefer to buy those products which is not acceptable in our culture, right? Whatsoever is acceptable in culture, we preferably do that. Like in India, right, that there is a difference in the consumption pattern. In India, majority of Indian population is vegetarian, so we prefer to buy groceries which are of vegetarian in nature, while in other culture majority is non-vegetarian, so they prefer to purchase those type of the product, right? So we always prefer the, like in our that is in our apparels, there is a difference in the apparels as per the culture. In Indian culture, right, we wear different type of the clothes, which there are certain clothes which are acceptable in our society, and there are certain which are not acceptable in our culture. So we prefer to buy those clothes which are acceptable in our society. Like at the time of Diwali, we usually prefer to wear traditional clothes, right? Why? Because of it, because of the culture, right? In say in Western countries, they prefer to wear certain different type of the clothes which is acceptable in their uh, society, right? In their culture. So culture actually impacts the consumption pattern, right? That the Western people are more, they rely more on the machines even for the cooking, cleaning, and other thing, right? So the consumerism is more is at the heights, right? Like they for the cleaning they prefer to buy robots, right? They prefer to purchase roti makers to pin the rotis, right? In our countries, in our culture, right, you might have hardly seen roti maker in any family, right? Although there are the families, but there are very few families. What in our culture, what we prefer to roll the rotis, spin the rotis, right? Right? And we have certain helps, house helps, which helps us in cleaning rather than totally relying on the robots or the machine for the cleaning purpose, right? So we rely on the house help, and the house help helps us in cleaning. So culture plays a very important role in the consumption pattern and the consumer behavior. With the culture, there is a concept of the subculture. Subculture is what? Subculture, that is a culture within a culture, is a subculture, right? Suppose we have a culture, and India has a certain culture, and again there are certain subculture. Like in Punjab, culture is different, right? That is known as an Indian culture. That Punjab has a certain different culture, that Tamil Nadu has a different culture, Gujarat has a different culture. These are known as the subculture, and within the Punjab there are certain different cultures, or the ideas, or the beliefs, or the values, which varies from culture to culture, subculture to subculture. Like within the culture, what is a culture? That is the shared values, ideas, and belief system. And within that, there are certain subcultures, right? So, culture within a culture is a subculture. Like in Punjab, basically a broad culture is there, but again, within the Punjab, there are certain subculture which follows the different. There is a difference in the language. There could be difference in the ceremonies, right? There could be difference in the value system. There could be difference in the belief system, right? So this is the subculture, and subculture arises due to geographic reasons, right? When there is a difference, when there is a uh, uh, geographic differences, like Punjab has a different culture than the Gujarat, and Gujarat has a different culture than the Tamil Nadu. So because of the geographic region, there is a difference in the, even a minute difference. There could be minute difference, but there is a difference in, right? Difference. Like we celebrate Pongal in Tamil Nadu, right? Makal, and we make those sweet rice, right? In Pongal, right? And that is in Punjab, right? We celebrate that is the Sankranti, right? We call it Sankrant, and they distribute Lodi and Sankrant. They distribute those popcorns and ravies and other sweets rather than making those rice, right? And then again in Gujarat, right? At the time of Sakrat, they actually, there is a kite flying festival, right? We all are celebrating the Sankrant. There is a culture, but again there is a subculture because of the geographical differences. The way we celebrate these Sankrant or Pongal in a different ways, kite flying, through kite flying, by making sweet rice, or by distributing other sweets, and by through bonfire, all these things. This shows a subculture. Then there could be a difference in the subculture, could be because of the religious differences, right? In India, that there is a difference. India is a there are many religions in India, right? And then again, it plays an important religion plays an important role. There are subculture related to religion. Subculture could be because of the religion, like Hindu, Muslim, Sikhs. They have the different religion. Although we have a certain specific culture, but within that they have a certain uh, uh, different rituals, like in the marriage, right? Hindus have a different subculture, right? Sikhs, although marriage is there, right? The rules of marriages are same for everyone, but again, the rituals or ceremonies of marriages could be different. The rituals or ceremonies at the time of that could be different, right? Then there could be differences because of ethnicity, right? Ethnicity could be one of the reasons for the difference in the culture, or could be reason for the subculture, right? Right. So ethnic every like ethnicity plays a very important role in formation of the subculture and then the nationality, right? So this subculture, actually this culture and subculture influences the consumer behavior of an individual. We buy the product as per our culture, but again the subculture again plays a very important role, right? Within the culture, that subculture actually influences the individual directly. Before thinking the culture, an individual think about the subculture, our culture, because there is a feeling that there is more bonding with their subculture, because they are in direct contact with their subculture rather than the culture, right? So they buy the product as per their subculture, and the subculture must be in line with the culture, and this culture and subculture actually influences the buying behavior of an individual, right? So today we discussed about the family, about the culture, about the subculture, and in our previous lecture we discussed about the various reference groups, which played a very important role in consumer behavior, in consumer decision making processes, right? So there are two groups, the primary groups and the secondary groups, which influences the consumer behavior. The family, friends, teachers, all these comes under the primary group, and primary group plays a very important role and influencing the consuming pattern of an individual, right? And then the secondary group could be like your reference group, your colleagues, right? Or any other, right? Which could impact your attitude and impact your consuming behavior patterns, right? Then comes your this thing, culture and subculture. Culture plays a very important role, because our family, our secondary group is influenced by the culture. So culture, subculture, family, and then the secondary group, all these influences the this our culture, our family is influenced by the culture, or basically the subculture. Our family is influenced by the subculture, and subculture is basically comes under the is influenced by the culture, or it arises from the culture. So culture and subculture influences the family group, right? The family, and the family in turn influences the consumption pattern of an individual, and this culture and subculture have impact on the reference of the secondary group, could have impact on the impact on the reference of the secondary group, right? So it could impact this thing, right? So today, I hope this is clear. Today we uh, a quick recap what we have done today. Today we discussed about the cultural concept, how the culture impacts the consumption pattern of an individual, how the subculture impacts the consumption pattern of an individual. We discussed about the family life cycle concept, right? Family cycle concept have an impact on the consumption pattern and the average spending potential of an individual, right? Then comes your family. We discussed about the family decision stages, right? How the family plays an important, how what are the stages in the family decisions, right? There are the five stages. These decision stages are decision making is a cyclic process. There are five stages basically: problem recognition, search for information, evaluation for alternative, then the final decision and the purchases, right? Then we discuss the family role structure and the buying behavior, right? What is the role structure and what is the buying behavior in the family, right? Then we discussed about the various factors influencing the consumer socialization, right? That how the consumer becomes social, how the consumer become what is consumer socialization, and what are the factors which includes which influences the consumer socialization. We discussed about the background factors, we discussed about the socializing agent, then we discussed about the various learning mechanism factor and which results in the outcome of the socialized consumer, right? Then we discussed about nature and types of the influences, right? And in our previous lecture, we discussed about the social classes and the buying behavior, how social classes impacts the buying behavior of an individual, what is social class and what is social stratification, right? Strata means what? Division. Strata means what? Strata means that is that is that is a stratum to that is strata is what? Strata is when we view one class or one object as being socially superior to others, they are or inferior to others, that is known as social stratification and social stratum. This social class and social stratification plays a very important role in consumer behavior, right? So social class is very important. In our previous lecture, we discussed about the various roles of opinion leader in the transmission of information. In our next lecture, we'll start with a new topic, that is uh, problem recognition, right? So I hope this is clear to you. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.